There are a few constants in life: death, taxes, and the fact that you never have enough time in your day. Now, I'm joking, of course, there on that last one, but so many people, and especially lawyers, can't find the time during the workday to get everything done that they need to. So they go in early and stay late, maybe they work the weekends, and often because of that, end up missing out on important things to them like family time, spending time doing hobbies, or taking time for their own self-care, and all because there's still work that needs to be done. This may sound familiar, and if it does, I bet if you look down at your desk, or maybe your computer or your phone, you're going to find one of the culprits. Now, I used to be a huge fan of to-do lists, and in fact, I still have some sitting around my desk here. But I've come to realize that to-do lists actually keep us from getting the most important things done, because they focus us, instead of the important things, they focus us on the things that are most urgent. So in this episode, I want to talk about the difference between tasks that are urgent and those that are important, and why it is those urgent tasks that keep you from really growing your law practice. I'm Brad Miller, and this podcast will help you transform your law practice through deliberate design, core business competency, mental mastery, and powerful positioning so that you can have a practice that gives you the life you want, not a life that is the mercy of your practice. If you want to stop struggling, spend more time with your family, live a life of abundance, and make a difference in the lives of your clients, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to the New Modern Lawyer Podcast. If you're like most lawyers, there's never enough time to get everything done. By the time the end of the day rolls around, your to-do list is still full. So you stay late, you come in on the weekends, maybe you skip lunch. You do what you can to try to get everything done. But as a result, the admin tasks that you have, they get pushed off or forgotten. Things like billing. How often have you maybe forgotten to properly bill clients? Putting together policies and procedures, doing staff reviews. Your client stream is slowed down because you aren't taking the time for marketing and business development that you need. Business development is one of those things in a law practice that requires constant attention. And if you slow down this, then the number of clients that come in slow down as well. So it has a ripple effect on your practice. Maybe you're missing out on quality time with friends and family. You're not there for soccer games, music recitals, 4-H programs, cookouts. You aren't eating properly or taking time for exercise, so your physical health is being neglected. This goes back to the skipping the meals. Maybe you're grabbing fast food on the way home. You're eating Cheetos and Ding Dongs at your desk, although I do admit I have a small candy stash in my desk drawer myself, Or maybe some health issues are starting to arise. You're facing some depression, problems with substance abuse, burnout, or just general unhappiness. This is why there's so many lawyers that look like they have everything together in their world, but behind closed doors, their world is falling apart. It's why rates for divorce, substance abuse, depression are so high for lawyers. And as a law firm owner, you probably understand what I'm saying and have been there. You have all the stresses of both practicing law and of running a law firm. I've worked with coaching clients that have struggled with not having enough time in their day. And this is something that we work on with a lot of them. And I know that you, as a lawyer listening to this podcast, will find some of the things that I help clients with useful. So I wanted to share a few with you here. One of the first things that I have my coaching clients do for those who are struggling with maybe work-life balance or getting everything done is to look at how they're spending their time each day. And I do this so for 2 weeks, I have them track their time. I give them a weekly calendar, usually broken down into 15-minute intervals, and then have them write down everything they do during the week. And they do one for each week. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, we go over their calendars. And probably 99% of the time, the same pattern emerges for every single person I do this with. And when they see this pattern, it quickly becomes obvious to them why they're not getting things done. You know what the pattern is? For 99% of my clients who are struggling with not having enough time to get their work done during the day, they are spending the majority of their working time on urgent tasks rather than important ones. They're going from one urgent task to another and never getting to the actual important stuff, the things that maybe are going to grow their business, such as marketing, business development, or office administrative tasks. In other words, they are reacting. Now, two really important concepts to understand here: urgency and importance. When something is urgent, you feel you just have to do it, or you just have to respond somehow. It's based on a kind of a feeling you have. You see your kid fall off their bike and you rush to help. That's urgent. And maybe you get a boost of adrenaline here to help you take that action. Maybe when you're done, as a reward, your body kind of gives you a hit of dopamine. Urgency is related to emergency, but not everything that is urgent is an emergency. Facing a deadline to file a brief for a client isn't an emergency. No one is facing immediate harm, but it is something that's urgent to do. Something is important if it contributes to your long-term mission, values, or goals. So going to your kids' soccer matches is important to you if family is one of your top values. Administrative tasks like billing and business development are important because they help bring in clients and money, and that allows you to keep helping more and more clients and doing what you do. Some tasks are both urgent and important. If you don't file that brief for the client by the deadline, they might not be able to defend it or make a specific argument, or whatever consequences they may have by not having this done on time. And there are some tasks that are either urgent and not important, or important but not urgent. And some tasks are neither urgent nor important. And generally, if something is not important or urgent, it's probably something that you don't want to be doing in the first place. There's a funny thing about urgency, though. Something only becomes urgent because someone else has prioritized it. To consider that. Every task that is urgent is only that way because someone else has prioritized it. So, for your client's brief, it is urgent because it needs to be filed by the deadline. But there is only a deadline because someone else, in this case maybe a judge or court rules or a statute, has prioritized moving cases forward, and so they set this deadline. And herein lies the problem. We like to focus on what is urgent because of that adrenaline rush or hit of dopamine that we get from it. We just don't get those in the same way by doing something that is just merely important. And so what happens is we spend all of our time on what is urgent, but never end up getting to what is important to us. So time's answering phone calls, responding to emails, putting out fires, probably a lot of what you find yourself doing during the day. Those are things that are urgent. And make no mistake, phone calls, responding to emails, all that, you are working on other people's priorities. When you focus on what is urgent and what is not important, again, you're spending your time on other people's priorities rather than your own. The only way to make sure that you get the things done that are important is by prioritizing them. And when I first got this, it hit me like a 2x4 in the face. This concept is really a game changer for my clients. And when you really get this, when you really understand it, it can be a game changer for you too. Now, I want to get practical here for you. So, how do you apply this to your work, to your life? Well, the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be chucking out your to-do list. Because for most people, to-do lists don't work. With a to-do list, you have a long list of tasks that you want to get done, and you work your way down the list one by one, checking things off, crossing them off as you get to it. There are a couple of problems with to-do lists, though. First, there's no prioritization built into the tasks on the list. Most of the time, you're just working from top to bottom, and when you get something new that has to be done, it just goes under the bottom of the list. The problem is that not all tasks are equal. Some tasks are more important than others. Some tasks are more urgent than others, and some just take more time than others. Your to-do list, though, treats them all the same, but they're not. If you have 10 things on your list, but the one at the bottom is due first, either you're not going to get to it, or more likely, what you're going to do is you're going to skip down to it. And then when you finish that one, then you're going to go to the next urgent one and decide what's the next thing that I need to get done. And then after that, you're going to go to the next urgent one, and you're going to keep on doing all the tasks that are urgent, but you're never going to end up getting to the ones that are important because you're always going to be adding new things on there. And this leads us to the second problem, which is that to-do lists actually focus you towards doing the tasks that are urgent and away from those that are important. Doing is right there in the name of to-do list. The emphasis is on action. And action is great. Action is how you get things done. But most of the time, the things that are going to best move your practice forward, the things that are important, they require planning and thinking first before you can start taking action on them. For instance, if you're going to redesign your website to try to get more traffic and more clients from it, you can't just jump right in working on content or trying to code your site. You first need to take the time to plan. Maybe you do research in a firm website best practices, or you do some studying and learn about human psychology and what attracts people. But nobody puts these things down on their to-do lists, the research, the planning. We write down things like find image for website or even work on website. And I can tell you from experience, because I've been there and I've done this, these are way too broad. And all these things require planning first before you can cross them off the list. So what happens is maybe you get them started, but then you realize that there's planning involved and that there's thinking involved that's going to keep you from checking them off. And at the end of the day, you never really get back to finishing them and checking that off that list. Third and final then, to-do lists never end. If you are anything like me, you can never, ever get to the bottom of your to-do list because things just keep getting added. It keeps getting longer and longer. And this is frustrating because you don't seem to be accomplishing anything. All you see is this never-ending list of things that you have to get done. And so at some point, maybe you give up. Maybe you start working from your email inbox. You start seeing, well, what things do I have in there that need to be done? And again, email is the priorities of others. It's urgency. And so again, you're working on the urgent things and not the important things and getting those things done. So get rid of the to-do list. Now, before I go on, though, I do want to make it clear that it is good to have a list of projects, of components and things that need to be done, particularly if it's talking about client work, or large projects, like you said, the website project, all the parts, break it down into what needs to be done. That way you're not missing things or letting things fall through the cracks. However, you don't want to be actually working from those lists. You don't want to make those into to-do lists because you're never going to get to the not urgent, important things on there if you do. So, how do you make sure that you're working on the important tasks, the things that really are going to move the needle, things that need to get done to help improve your law practice, to help give you a better life? Here's a system that I teach my clients. The key to it is that you have to schedule time for what is important. I'm sure you've heard the saying that if it isn't scheduled, it doesn't get done. And that is true. If you want to make sure that you get to do something, you need to put it on your calendar. And the way you do this is through time blocking. Now, the concept, the idea of time blocking seems so basic, so simple, but it is crucial. You need to block off time on your calendar for the important tasks that you want to make sure they get done. And then you need to stick to the calendar and actually use it to make sure that you keep time to work on those tasks. So now for the system, what you're going to do is you're going to pick an objective that you want to accomplish within 90 days. Maybe, let's say here, you want to decrease the amount of accounts payable that you have that are more than 30 days overdue so that you can improve your cash flow. Maybe you're looking to improve it by 10%. So we're trying to get clients to pay faster here, okay, to help your cash flow situation. So you write down this objective, and then you decide what are 3 outcomes that you want to commit to each week. So let's say for this first week, you decide that you want to reach out to those clients that have accounts payable that are over 30 days, either by phone or by email. The second thing you want to do is you want to tighten up the language of your fee agreements to make it clear when things are due and to give you a little bit more authority, a little bit more clout when you try to collect. And the third thing you want to do this week is you want to look into implementing online payments to make it easier and quicker for clients to pay. Each day then of the week, you take and list 3 essential tasks that you must do to reach your weekly outcomes. So in this case, maybe we're going to create a list of overdue accounts. That's the first thing we're going to do. Maybe we're going to look and get some sample language from fee agreements from your malpractice carrier. A lot of times your professional liability insurance companies, they will have resources for you, maybe sample templates of agreements, language, and things like that to use. And so maybe you're going to go and you're going to see if you get some sample language from them talking about payment terms. And then let's say that you're going to research law firm specific payment processors. There's a ton out there. Your bank probably offers it. There's different companies that are kind of specific for law firms that can handle not only general earned fees, but also things that need to go into trust. And so you want to take some time to actually research what's out there and maybe compile a list of those providers that you can start looking more deeply into. So once you get those 3 tasks, then you block off time in your day that you can use to go towards those tasks. Now, you need to also make sure that you block off time to deal with the urgent stuff that's invariably going to come in. That means also the emails, the calls that are coming in, but things, the client work that just happens to pop up or things. So, give yourself some time for that as well on your calendar, and be flexible. Things are going to come up. There will be some things that are both urgent and important that you have to tackle right away, and it might cause you to have to adjust your calendar. Or it may take you longer or shorter than you anticipate to do something. So you got to be flexible with it. It's not a very rigid guide. These are more just kind of, clearing space in your day that you can work on these things. But it's really important, though, that you stay committed to this system, because these urgent things, important or not, they're going to try to push their way in if you let them. Now, if you stick with this system, I guarantee that you're going to start finding time to tackle those important things that you want and need to do in your law practice. And you'll be amazed at how much more time you seem to have because of this. Now, beyond this system, there are some other things that you can do which can help as well. And I talked to my clients, and these are also suggestions I give them to help to add along with the system. So things like increasing the amount of tasks that you delegate. Or if you don't delegate things now, start delegating. Learn how to delegate things. This might mean that you need to look into hiring someone, a full-time person, a part-time person, maybe a virtual assistant, to do some of these tasks, which will free you up to do more important things that you have to get done. You want to turn off your email notifications and other distractions. This is one of the best things that I ever did, is when I went on my phone and on my email programs and I turned off all the pop-ups, all the beeps, all the dings, all the different notifications whenever new mail things that came in. You will be amazed just how many disruptions come in a day from emails, from phone calls, and things like that. And every time that something like this pops up, you get distracted from what you're doing. Not only do you then have to try to get back to what you're doing, and you're listing the time, obviously, that you're dealing with the distraction, but it takes your mind time to then get back and focus on the task that you were previously doing. And I've seen different research and different things on exactly how long that is, but it can take a while, and it takes up a lot of time. It can be hard to get back to things. So really, really important. Turn off those notifications, turn off the sound, turn off the pop-up windows and everything else. On your computers, get rid of all of them. And along with that, limit the number of times you actually check your email and only respond to emails maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Now, I know you're thinking, whoa, dude, I can't do this. Like, I get so many things coming in, and people that need all kinds of responses. Like, there's no way that I can check them, only a couple times a day. I bet if you really try this out, if you really, commit to it and try out doing this, I bet you'll be surprised that a lot of the things that you thought you had to respond to immediately maybe don't really need that immediate response after all. They can wait a little bit. I like to say that there's really nothing in my law practice that is a true emergency. Now I do business work and do deals and things, and so I'm not dealing with life-threatening issues. I'm not worrying about the cops at your door or an angry spouse, trying to take your kids. Those are something different. And in those cases, I say if it's a true emergency, call the cops first, and then you're allowed to call me. Or you're allowed to, then that's really something that's an emergency that needs to be dealt with right away. Outside of that, though, most things can wait a little bit. And one of the things that I talked about in a previous episode of the podcast is that if you start to respond to clients and to colleagues and opposing counsels and whomever, if you start to respond to them immediately as soon as that email comes in, what you're really doing is you're training them to expect an immediate response from you. So they will expect when they send you an email that they're going to get a response very quickly. And that's not something that you want to be doing. That's not healthy. It's not helpful to be able to get things done. So again, trust me on this. Just try it out. Try it for 2 weeks and see how it goes. But schedule it on your calendar. Block off 2 or 3 times on your day that you're going to check emails and that you're going to respond to emails. And you're only going to do it during those time periods. Okay? And let me know. Send me an email or put something in the comments and let me know how it goes. I think you're going to be surprised that it works better than you think it will. And the other tip that I've got is, again, kind of along these same lines with distractions and avoiding things popping up and kind of taking you away from what you're focusing on, is stop answering your phone. Get a receptionist, turn off your ringer and let the calls go to voicemail. But stop answering your phone. It's just as bad as email from distracting you. Again, there's very few things that are very urgent. And if you're in a practice area where urgent things might come up, again, like I said, the cops are at the door, an angry spouse trying to take the kid away, things like that, hire someone to answer the phones for you. You can get, you don't need a full-time receptionist, hire a virtual receptionist, someone where you get your phone calls forwarded to them, they answer it for you, and they can do a little bit of this triage and decide if it's really an emergency, and they can kind of handle it for you. Because again, every time you're answering that phone, you're getting distracted. And you've probably seen this. You probably understand. I've talked to a lot of lawyers, and some of the coaching clients tell me that they love working on Saturday mornings, because it's the only time that they can really get stuff done. Because they know that they're not going to have to deal with phone calls, they're not going to have to deal with emails coming through. They can just focus on getting work done. And that's because nobody's calling, nobody's emailing them on the weekends, and not checking those things. You could do the same similar things during the week too. Again, you can have other people answer your phone for you, and then again, schedule time, block it off to actually return phone calls. Same thing with your emails, only check them a couple times a day and respond during those dedicated times. But if you do that, again, if you try this out for 2 weeks, I think you'll be amazed at how much more productive you are, how much more you're able to get done, and how it's not as big of a problem as you think it is. Okay, so just try it and just see. All right, well, that wraps up episode today. Before we go, I want to give you a takeaway today, and that is that to get done the things that are important to you, stop prioritizing the priorities of others over your own priorities. Stop being reactive and only focusing what is urgent. Focus on those things that are important that you need to get done. All right, guys. So this is the 5th episode here. Again, I want to thank you guys for listening. If you found value in this episode, or any other episodes. I'd appreciate that if you would give comments, go to iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, leave a review, because that helps other people find this. And if you have found value in this, then I'm sure that someone else will also be able to find value in this podcast. So again, if you leave a review, if you leave a comment on the Apple Podcast, whatever, a rating, would love that. Feel free to share this with any friends or colleagues that you think might find this beneficial as well. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you guys next time.